It's one thing to publish the data, it's then whether the data gets used. So who is using the data that agencies are publishing? Or is it being used enough?
It's certainly not being used enough, but with the best performing agencies, and UNDP's certainly one of them, they are using their own data internally. So our mantra here is publish once, use often. If you're using data for internal management decision making, that data should also be shared with your clients or your government counterparts. And the best performing agencies do that. However, the reason that IATI was really set up and what motivates us at Publish What You Fund is trying to put information in the hands of decision makers. And here, there are some countries that are starting to use open data and to import it to their own systems. Two examples we're familiar with are Bangladesh and Myanmar, which have both built open source aid management systems. And there are a number of countries, especially in West Africa, that have been importing IATI data to their own aid management systems. And the reason that's important is because historically aid management is done by sending spreadsheets around or calling the donors in your country and saying, all right, who's funding which sectors? And that only works if you have a good relationship with these donors. Whereas with IATI data, you have access to what all the donors are doing, and you can import that straight to your database. Now, we don't know enough about how they're using it in practice, and here the biggest challenge is getting civil society to see that data and to feed into it. And this is where I think we in the open data and transparency community have a lot more to do to join up the data from the aid which we get through IATI with budget data, with open contracting data, which CGD fellow Charles Kenny has written about a lot, and also with extractives data, so that in a country like Ghana, which was represented on our panel here this week at CGD, is getting money from the IMF, from bilateral donors like UK's DFID, and from corporate social responsibility programs of the big oil companies who are investing in Ghana. All that information is available in one place for Ghanaian citizens to access. So we're not there yet, but we are an awful lot way closer than was the case when we started this campaign 7 or 8 years ago.
It sounds like we're a long way off from that point, are we?
In some countries like Ghana, there is the political will to get it done. I think that the technology will follow quite swiftly. What we don't see is a global movement yet to be using open data for aid and development. We've got a global movement to publish it. We're in that movement. We don't see a global movement for data use yet, and that's why I keep bringing this back to the Sustainable Development Goals agreed last year in New York and to the data revolution. Because the whole point about the SDGs is that it is creating an equal relationship in the development landscape. So it's not the North doing things to the South anymore, it's a global partnership for development. And in order for the data revolution to deliver that global partnership, we need global partnerships of data users and not just of data producers.